Michael Jackson's natal chart. The first thing we see is the ascendant, and his ascendant is in Pisces, and the ruler is Neptune. And Neptune rules the imagination, and your unconscious motivations can be addictions. It's your background thoughts under the surface, and it usually is connected with your creative world of your imagination. And his is placed in the 8th house of Scorpio. And where I have the little arrows circling is places that I see it affecting. And in Scorpio, it's another water sign like Pisces. That's a submerged water is always a lot of under the surface energy. It's intuitive, a lot of intuition, and also some secrets, because that's the house of secrets where his where Neptune is placed. So that could bring in secrets about um, things he had to keep secret. Could be uh, money coming to you from outside sources, or wills, or inheritances, or gifts. Um, Also, psychological world. So his intuition and his psychological world were connected, and the intuition, I mean, Neptune is connection with the divine. It can be spiritual, and I don't know if you can see, there is the symbol for Jupiter close to it, and that combines the energy of that planet also. And Jupiter rules religion, and Neptune rules spirituality. So there could be secrets that he had to keep regarding his religion and his spirituality, or uh, sexuality, or death, or some type of yeah, it could be sexuality that he had to keep secrets. But it affects originally where Neptune is placed is in the 12th house, and his has two signs ruling, affecting that, both Pisces and Aquarius. It is the natural house of Pisces, so it's always ruled by Neptune anyway. So a lot of imagination, but also uh, because his has partially, or quite a lot of it, is ruled by Aquarius, and Aquarius is where your ingenuity is, and your inventiveness, and where you are very individual, and where you rebel against maybe societal norms or something. And the other house that I mean, the other thing that it's showing that it affects, of course, is his ascendant, and but it also, if you can see it on the left hand side, that the circling arrow is right on where his moon is, and that is rules the mother, and rules the house of home. And so his inventiveness and creation could be connected to his his home and his mom. And and the reason I have the other circling arrow is that that affects the 4th house down at the bottom, which is uh, the house that the moon is from. And that particular house for him is ruled by Cancer, which is the normal sign. It's partially also ruled by Gemini for him. So um, it combines the house of communications, the sign of communications, Gemini, and the sign of Cancer, which that's three water. Water. It's a lot of intuition there. Cancer, all water signs are intuitive. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. If I can get it to turn. Okay, and this is his sun, and the sun is where the way you create your devotions, the way you entertain, the way you show up, the way your ego responds to life, the way how your sense of confidence. And I can't get it to turn. Just a second here. Okay. Okay. And his is in Virgo, in the house of work, in the sixth house of work. And Virgo is your daily tasks, your how you organize. It's the things that you do on a daily basis. And so he was probably really organized and analyzed about his daily, what he was going to do each day. And it was connected, of course, to all those other planets in that same house. And that same house of work is mostly ruled by Leo, which is the entertainer. Leo is rules the fifth house, which is why I have a little arrow going around there circling. And because the fifth house of his is ruled by both the Cancer, it affects both his home life and his fifth house of entertainment. That's the fifth house is the house of entertainment. So that's the normal house of the sun. So they all tied together with his work and his daily tasks and how he organizes himself. And this doesn't want to turn. Okay, and the moon is your emotions and your mood, and again your mother, and the home life, your inner. A lot of people show up more like their moon sign because um, that's how you feel, and if your moods usually is what people sees, your attitude and so forth, how you show up is usually you're ruled by your moon sign. So in Vedic astrology, they use the moon more than the sun or the ascendant. They talk about the moon more because they consider it the ruler because it is your emotions and your attitude and so forth, and that's what people probably see the most, especially for females. They say, I don't know if that's true, but that's what they in Vedic they say, that especially for females, the moon is more critical for seeing someone's personality. And let's go. Okay, and his is, this thing seems to be locked up. Oh dear, I can't go back. His moon was, um, I don't know why this froze for a second, and his moon was conjunct his, meaning in the same place as his ascendant, and so he has a lot of emotions toward his mom and his home life, and so a lot of his imagination, and imagine what where he used his imagination was in his home life. He did a lot of his imagining at home. And oh, rats, I just clicked on that. That's Venus. I'm showing Venus, and Venus is the values and the money that you bring with your own, through your own efforts. And for him, it's also in the workhouse. So, because uh, I have the two little arrows circling in the places that Venus normally rules, and that is the second house of Taurus and the seventh house of Libra. Those are the normal placements for Venus, and so that's where it would have bring the energy of those two signs to his creative house. So what it's saying basically is that he can use, because Venus rules money that you bring in through your own efforts, he can use his own efforts to bring money to, make money through his creative, through his work in creating and entertaining. So Venus there is making him, is showing that he is able to use, um, make, it's a good luck sign. Venus rules good luck, but it rules your values and your ability to earn money through your own efforts. And so he put that all toward his entertainment. And this is his initiative. Mars rules initiative, rules of self-image, rules uh, your energy level, and it also rules money coming to you from outside sources. If you use the traditional use, which it used to rule the house of Scorpio, and I never usually mention it, but Mars and Pluto they both rule sexuality, and let's see where it is placed in his. I don't know why this is not turning when I click it. Let's see. Okay, it's down there on the bottom in the second house of values, and it's yourself. It rules the house of self-image, which is the arrow that's turning in a circle there in the first house. It rules your self-image. So, and being in the house of values and money that you earn through your own efforts, it brings, again, he can use himself to bring money and um, through his own efforts. And he put a lot of energy into use of himself, his self-image, to attain money through his own efforts. And also the other arrow is up there in the 8th house, which it affects that because of Mars being the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Also, that means that it affects his Neptune and the other planets that are placed in that house, but it also affects his sexuality and his and being there. It's his secrets attached to somehow with his private, his he may have had confusion about his sexuality because of Neptune being in the house of sexuality. So that can be part of it too. I don't usually haven't talked about that on, I don't think, the last two readings of other people that I did, and I don't know why this is locking up every time I click it. Okay, and Mercury is your mind, your intellect, your it's considered the lower mind, and Jupiter the higher mind, but it's all kinds of communication, short distance communication, short trips. It can rule your siblings, your uh, how you take care of things, your routines. And let's see where it is placed. Okay, it's placed also in his workhouse. So that brings routines and communications to his creative life and his work. So he used communications in his work, and also it could be with siblings. And I know in the beginning he did his entertaining and communicating with his siblings. They used to have a group before he went out on his own. And the little arrows that are circling, I have it showing the third house down on the bottom, which is Gemini, and that's where the communication house is, and that's where Mercury rules. It also rules Virgo, and that sixth house where it is placed, the house of work and health. And so it brings those energies, it brings the energy of Gemini, the energy of Virgo, and all it's placed in Leo, so it has those three signs working together, and so entertaining, organized, intellectual um, entertainment. And then Pluto, the planet that rules the eighth house of secrets and psychology and obsessions and the occult and transformations and money coming to you from outside sources, uh, death, wills, could be inheritances, your inner power, your sexuality, and let's go to see where it is. It is right next to the sun, but it's also, I believe it's in Leo. I can't really see on this chart, but um, Leo is, of course, the entertainer, and he uses his sense of sexuality. You know, he always did those moves with the hand down below, and um, uh, for part of his entertainment, and that was part of his work. And so, and then it affects the houses that I have the arrows turning around, because um, that rules, normally Pluto rules the eighth house, and then that of course affects his ascendant, which, because Neptune is in that house, and it also affects the moon. So because the moon is conjunct to the ascendant, so that brings in, actually I didn't mark it out, it brings in the fourth house and the fifth house again, because so that's all this water connection, uh, uh, intuitive. His his creativity and imagination were just overtime, and that connected to the way he communicated. So let's go to the next one, and this is Uranus, and this is sudden and unexpected. It's where your ingenuity is, and it's the house that rules Aquarius, which rules the house of gains, and it rules big tech. It rules revolutionary and rebellious thinking, or out of the ordinary, freedom from the mundane, or freedom from convention. So let's go see where it is. And it is also in his house of work, and that's a stellium. It's called a stellium when you have three or more planets in a house. And so In his house of work, he has all those planets working together for his creative side and his entertainment. And his entertainment was revolutionary. It was unusual, which is another thing that another word used for Aquarius is unusual, and it was inventive, and that's another word used for Aquarius. And because you see the circles going, I mean, the arrows going around in a circle, it was affected where Aquarius is ruling his 12th house of imagination. So that house is affected. Oh, sorry, there's a motorcycle going by and I've got the windows open. Loud. Hope it's not making too much noise on here. And then I also marked the 11th house because the 11th house is Aquarius's normal house. And so his 11th house is ruled by Capricorn, which is career. So very revolutionary career is what, and it affects society at large. So, excuse me. Okay, let's go to the next slide. That's Jupiter, and Jupiter is long distance and foreign communications and connections. It's expansion, it's philosophical, it's good fortune, it is religion and theology, and a very expansive energy. Let's see where it goes for him. I think, yeah, it was conjunct or very close to his, in the same house as his Neptune, which that eighth house expands where it is touching, and so a lot of foreign connections and foreign travel, foreign or long distance travel, long distance connections could be far thinking because of his unconscious could have been, it rules the higher mind. Jupiter does, it rules the higher mind, so it could have brought a lot of higher thinking from his intuition, because Neptune combines the energy. So a lot of intuitive thinking that came to the surface. But also there's something secretive always about Scorpios, so in that house. So there could be also, it's other people's money, so an expanded ability to bring money from outside sources is not through his own efforts. So he had a lot of luck of where money was concerned. Let's see, an abundance. And okay, this is Saturn, and Saturn rules responsibilities, your structures, your things that might restrict you or limit you, or it also rules your father. And so let's go. I forgot to mention that Jupiter also rules mentors, so he could have had a lot of mentors. And okay, now this is where Capricorn is. I'm pointing out at the top there, is right at the top of his chart. And Capricorn, I mean Saturn rules the house of career, and the house of career is the 10th house, and that's why I've got the arrow going there, and it's affecting his Oh, um, okay, it's in Sagittarius. His Saturn is in Sagittarius, which is the affecting the Jupiter. That's why I've got that other arrow circling. I was wondering why I had that. It's kind of a reminder to myself of where it's affecting. And anyway, so it's at the top of the chart, which is your outer image, and people know you for your outer image. And so uh, he was bigger than life. Jupiter, bigger than life. Sagittarius is what that house is, and it's um, because Saturn is there and it rules the father. His father would be key in his career. So that's, I know there was problems between them, but he definitely was key in his career, just looking at his chart. And it's not a judgment, it's just what I read by the planet placement. And let's go to the next one. Okay, Neptune. We've already talked about where it is. And it is in that house of secrets and other people's money, and um, all the places that it affects is, basically it affects the whole chart. But um, I have the arrows going in his 12th house of the unconscious, his first house, and conjunct the moon, the ascendant. So his home and mom, and then the fourth house and the fifth house, which fourth house is partially ruled by Cancer, partially ruled by Gemini, and also the fifth house of entertainment, also partially ruled by Cancer. A little bit goes into Leo. But this is Placidus. Placidus breaks down things oddly, and you might not understand. Oh, these two signs are ruling this guy, and it's confusing at times. But um, anyway, so it kind of pulls in the house of entertainment, the home life, his ascendant, and his 12th house of the unconscious. So let's go to the next one. And this one is his north and south node. And I explained in another video that the north and south node is, the north node is supposedly your point of destiny, where you're urged to move toward that in this lifetime, and it's like 30 years you're supposed to have attained that north node energy. And uh, like in Vedic, it's like past life is your south node, which is the one on the bottom there on his, and that's in Aries, and his north node is in Libra. But so if you're not talking past lives, it could be when you're in your youth, you were comfortable being alone, because Aries rules being alone, or the self, or the self image. And when you're moving toward your north node for him, it would be toward partnerships, because so you have to get a balance of the north and south nodes. Supposedly it's your nodes of fate. So you're fated to balance those out in your life, supposedly, and it's supposed to be completed by around 30 or so. But anyway, so his in Libra, that affects his seventh house of partnerships and marriage and so forth. And he wasn't married, but he had a lot of partnerships with a lot of, and it rules all kinds of different partnerships. And partially his is ruled by Libra, and partially by Virgo. Virgo is routines and analytics and so forth. So he had a lot of partners helping him with maybe uh, accounting, or getting his things organized, and then moved away from being a loner. From his south node would be a loner, and those two arrows are just showing where those two houses are that the nodes are Aries and Libra. And I pointed out the Neptune, I think erroneously, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, empty houses. He put everything into his career and his work. His work house is completely full with all of his planets. All of his energy went to his work. And also that up at the top, his career was affected. And so, I mean, I don't really need to go into all those houses. Um, just know that his energy wasn't in his 12th, 11th, and 10th, or his 3rd, 4th, and 5th, though they are affected and they do have an effect. But I've already pretty much tied together through each planet that comes from those houses what energy, they all went into his work. And let's go to the next slide. I decided I would, I wanted to talk about, of course, the midheaven, which is your how you are perceived by the public. And so he was perceived as a Sagittarius, jovial, outgoing, um, because it's in the sign of Aquarius, his midheaven. The MC up at the top is the midheaven, and then it's always a black line in the middle of the chart. So the midheaven up at the top is where that little arrow is circling, and it's in the sign of Sagittarius. And so that's how he was perceived by people around him, was this outgoing, jovial person. And then his inside world is shown down at the bottom in the Imam Coeli, down at the bottom of that black line. And that's his inner thoughts, his most inner world, and that would be Gemini. So that's how he felt inside, very communicative. He had a urge to communicate a lot. He was close to his siblings. He liked short distance travels, and a lot of communication. And then the other circle is on his descendant, which is the opposite of your ascendant, and that is supposedly how partnerships are affected. And I'm sorry, I put yeah, his descendant is in Virgo, and so where his inside life was imaginative, his outside life was organized and like analytical and structured around his routines, because Virgo is routines. So that's where that comes in. And this is the aspects that he had. And I'm just going to say anything that is red lines is tension between the planets, and the other ones are easy aspects. It looks like somehow the secrets, his ascendant and his other people's money worked well with his house, but there was tension between some of the planets in his workhouse, and tension between his energy. Possibly he had problems with his energy. That is also the house of health. So there could have been health problems from his his work. And the other things, easy aspect to his moon with his mother, and tension between his mom and dad up there on the left top. And if his outer life had a lot of good aspects to his creative house of work. So you can kind of look at the lines that are red are all tense aspects. Whoops, I missed one from his mother to his son. I wonder why he would have had that. Maybe she didn't feel good about his career. I don't know. Okay. I guess that's it. Thanks for listening.